Tonight, more classified documents. An outside team hired by lawyers for former President Trump finding 2 items marked classified in one of Trump's storage lockers in West Palm Beach. This all comes after the former president was directed by a federal judge to take a harder look at his properties for any remaining classified materials. So let's go straight to senior justice correspondent Evan Perez. I know, Evan, you've been speaking to your sources tonight. So let's just start off, first of all, with what more you've learned from them about these new classified documents.
Well, these 2 documents were found in a storage unit in Florida. This is one of the places that the Trump team had items that were removed from the White House when he left office. The GSA had them transported down to Florida, and this is one of those places that they went. Now, Aaron, the importance of this is that obviously the former president and his team got a subpoena back in June, and they said that they had returned everything that was marked classified. This was what the subpoena demanded, is a grand jury subpoena. Obviously, we know that that wasn't true because in August, the FBI did a search and found a lot more classified documents in their search. And since then, the Justice Department has been telling the Trump team that they believe that there were additional documents and there were government records that were still missing, and that obviously he hadn't turned over everything. This is why the Trump team hired a team to do this search of 4 different properties, including Bedminster, the golf course, Trump Tower, this storage facility, and another office facility. So this is why the Trump team did this search. They invited the Justice Department to at least participate, and the Justice Department declined. So now we'll see whether this satisfies the judge who has overseen all of this and has demanded that they turn over everything.
All right, Evan, thank you very much. So let's go now to Ryan Goodman, the former special counsel at the Department of Defense, now the co-editor-in-chief of the Just Security legal blog and a professor of law at NYU. All right, every step of the way, we've talked about this. So now, what does this development mean? I mean, obviously it means Mar-a-Lago is not the only place there were classified documents because these were in a storage locker in West Palm Beach. So it's a different location. And this outside team has found more classified documents. So what does it actually mean?
So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's further evidence of the core crimes of willful retention of national defense information and concealment of government records.
Because we already knew that. That's already there.
There's an avalanche of information on that already.
Right. Avalanche, okay.
But it does go to the obstruction of justice and the disobeying of a subpoena. And it sounds like, according to Washington Post reporting, that Judge Beryl Howell, who's a fantastic judge in the D.C. Circuit, said to them first, again, attest to me that you have fully complied with the subpoena. They do so, and then she demands that they do this additional search, and lo and behold, it turns up more documents. And also, according to the Post reporting, it's not necessarily that they came straight from the White House, that they were potentially first at an office in North Virginia where Trump's staffers were, and then the GSA only starts to rent out the facility in July of 2021. So that's already 6 months after he's left office.
Right.
So it's in North Virginia, and then now it's in parts of Florida. It's a real problem.
Okay, so when you talk about the avalanche of information already in terms of, willful retention, but now you're talking about that maybe, I don't know if I don't want to be putting words into your mouth, but maybe this moves the needle even more on obstruction. So the reason for that may be that his lawyers reportedly did represent that Trump no longer had custody over any such records, right, since June. Now, obviously, the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago itself was post that point, but does this indicate that they directly lied?
It is evidence that they were lying. It's not proof that they were lying, but part of what they say in writing to the Justice Department is that they attest at that time to the idea that they've done a diligent search of all boxes that went from the White House to Florida.
Right.
So
they can't claim, we just didn't know about these, right? That's not an excuse. You have to know to certify.
Exactly. So it's not that they could say, we didn't know that they were there, these 2 other documents. It's, you told us that you did a diligent search of all the boxes, and obviously you didn't, because when you got this outside firm, they found more.
So what does this mean? I mean, you've been very clear. You've written a more than 100-page document saying they have more than enough to charge in the Mar-a-Lago case. So does this change anything in terms of charges or possible penalties?
I don't think it adds additional charges, but it certainly adds additional evidence. And not only that, but it's an aggravating factor. These are the kinds of factors the Justice Department routinely looks at to determine whether or not to indict. It is egregious that we're now 2 years out from his presidency, and he still has even more documents after first giving false statements, second giving false statements, that's the
Right.
kind of factor that makes a difference.
Right. It was interesting when you say, intent may not matter. It's the facts of whether you have it. But when intent is so clear and so in your face, it means something.
Yes.
All right. Ryan Goodman, thank you very much.